In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear window regulator with motor assembly on this Nissan Altima. This will be located behind your rear door panel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we'll do is make our way behind the inside door handle. You're going to find a small trap door. You can easily remove that using an angled pick. Just pry that out. We'll give it a quick inspection and we can set this aside. Behind that, you'll find that you have one 10mm headed mounting bolt. You can also use a Phillips head screwdriver if needed. Let's remove that bolt. Let's move down from there and we'll continue on along the window switch. You'll find you have a plastic panel that makes its way around this area. Use a plastic trim tool, make our way under here and gently start separating this. Underneath this area, you will find that you have one wiring harness. We will have to disconnect that. Now for this, there's one locking tab right in the center here. You can go ahead and press that in and then separate the wiring harness. We'll give each side a quick check for corrosion. Assuming those look good, we can set this aside. Now we can move to the door grab handle. Looking in the center of this, down along the bottom, you'll find another trap door. We'll be using our curved pick for this. Make our way right inside this area and pull this out of place. With that removed, we'll continue on to our one 10mm headed bolt located in this area. At this point, we'll continue on by separating the door panel from the door itself. When doing so, you want to be extremely careful for any pinch points. We also want to pay attention to the fact that there is cables that lead along the backside here to that inside door handle, whether it's the handle itself or even the lock. Now to separate this, you can either reach your fingers in between here, once again being careful for any pinch points, or use a plastic trim tool. We'll start separating this. Once you have it separated, you can start lifting it up, and now we'll have a look along the backside for those cables. Now, as we pull this away, there should be a cable tie that goes right across here. Ours is broken, and that would go across these cables. Typically for this, if you wanted to, you could just trim it yourself. It looks like somebody already did that. We'll follow these cables to where they connect onto the inside door handle now. For each one of these cables, we're going to have to separate it from the door handle. You could take hold of it by hand or continue with your plastic trim tool and we'll gently pry it out of place. You can tell that the cable itself has a small groove and the inside door handle has an area that fits into that groove. That's what will hold it in place. Now we can take hold of that cable, we'll swing it into a position that we can start removing it and lift it straight up and out. Give that cable a quick inspection, make sure it is not damaged or broken in any way and set it aside. We'll do the same to the lower cable. Continue on with that trim tool or just use your hands as I said. Lift it up and out of place, a quick inspection. We'll set that aside and remove the door panel. Now that we have the door panel out of the way, let's continue on to removing this bracket. This is held in place with two 10mm headed mounting bolts. Remove the pair and the bracket. We'll set this aside. Now we can start removing the weather barrier. As you start pulling this down and out of place, there's a couple things to pay attention to. We do not want to rip it, but we also want to pay attention to the fact it has this black sticky goo. This is called butyl tape. If you get it on your clothing, it will ruin your clothing. Just pull this away as far as needed. Now the next thing we will have to do is power down the window regulator so we can gain access to the two mounting bolts that hold the window regulator to the glass. To do that, we'll reconnect our window switch. Now with that said, we'll put the vehicle in the on position so we can start powering this window down to gain access to both of our mounting bolts. Now that we have the key in the on position, let's continue bringing this down. At this point, I can gain access to this mounting bolt in this position, and if I was to look in this hole right here, I can also see my other 10mm headed mounting bolt. Now we can put the car in the off position. Let's start removing each of our two 10mm headed mounting bolts. This last one. At this point, let's carefully take hold of the window glass. We'll bring it to the upright position and then hold it there with some painter's tape. We'll make sure that we use several strips of tape for this because tape is a lot cheaper than glass. Perfect. With the window taped in the upright position, we'll continue on to our one electrical connector that leads to the window motor. That's along this area here. It does have a locking push tab that you will have to press in with either your finger or small screwdriver. With that pressed in, we'll continue on by tugging this out of place. As always, a quick check for corrosion and we can set that wiring harness aside. Now let's start dismounting the window regulator from the door itself. You'll find that you have two 10mm headed mounting nuts in this center area here. Once you have both of those nuts removed, you should be able to press these studs straight back through the door. There we are. Now we have 4 mounting bolts holding the window regulator to the door. You'll find that the first mounting bolt up here has a hole up in this area, so we can loosen this bolt, leave it in just a couple threads, and then fully remove the other 3, eventually removing the entire window regulator from the door itself. That one's loose. Now at this point, we need to be extremely safe. We're going to be reaching inside of the door, so you want to be careful that the glass does not come down and potentially hurt you in any way. While reaching inside the door, we're going to have to lift up on the window regulator and slide it inboard to remove this bolt from the hole. At this point, we'll continue on to condensing the window regulator as needed so we can start removing it through the hole in the door itself. There it is, friend. Now let's transfer over that one 10mm headed bolt from the original window regulator. We want to leave it loose. Once again, we're reaching inside of the door, so you want to be careful for any pinch points. We'll get the window regulator aligned so we can put the mounting bolt through this area. Start in all 4 of your other window regulator mounting bolts. We'll leave those loose for now. Start aligning the rest of the window regulator here. Press that in. We'll start on both of those 10mm headed mounting nuts. At this point, we can continue on to tightening all of the mounting hardware. Now let's connect our window motor. Listen for a click from that. We'll give it a nice tug to make sure it's properly secured. Now let's put the vehicle in the on position so we can power the window regulator down to the position we can gain access to both of the mounting points. Let's make sure that's properly aligned. That looks good. Turn off the key power. Now we can carefully start lowering the window glass down. As we bring it down, we want to make sure that it aligns properly with the window regulator holes. Once we've done that, we'll continue on with each of our two 10mm headed mounting bolts. Start them in and snug them up. Snug them up. Now with the vehicle in the on position, let's test the functionality of the window regulator, window motor, and of course the window itself. We're going to make sure it goes all the way up and back down as needed. Perfect. Kill the power and remove the switch. Now that we confirmed everything functions as it should, we'll continue on with our vapor barrier. We want to make sure that we take the wiring harnesses and slide them through the proper position here. We have this lower wiring harness, but then we also have the cables. Those cables will go through this top corner here. Let's get this aligned as needed. Try to get this in the original position. Let's get this bracket on here. Now we can start reinstalling the door panel here. We'll take this and attach the lower cable in position. Press that in, listen for a click, double check to make sure that cable is secured and it will not fall out. Assuming that looks good, let's continue on to the second one here. We'll be sliding that into position as well and double checking to make sure it is locked. Now we'll continue on by putting the door panel in position. As I had mentioned during the removal process, this should go around the cables. Other than that, we'll start putting this in. You want to pay attention to each one of your push tabs that make their way around the door panel, and then you'll find that you have holes on the door itself where each one of those presses into. To get this in the proper positioning, we're going to have to come up nice and high. Once we bring it up, we'll press it up against the door itself and then start sliding it down. Now at this point, we'll start pressing the rest of this onto the door itself, double checking to make sure we're aligned properly as we continue. Let's just double check to make sure it's seated all the way around. Now let's continue on with the 10mm headed mounting bolt inside of the door grab handle. Start it in, snug it up. Once that's nice and tight, we'll continue on with that trap door. We'll make sure we have the opening facing away from the door itself. Press that in. Continue on to your window switch. We'll be attaching this. Press it in, listen for a click, give it a nice tug to make sure it's secure. We'll bring this up into position, aligning all of our mounting points and pressing it down. Moving along, we'll continue on with our 10mm bolt inside of the inside door handle. Now we can put on our piece. Okay, friend, we've got our vehicle back together. We already tested the window regulator functionality. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.